Welcome back to Earth Station Trek, a show where we trek from the early days on NBC to the future on Paramount Plus and everywhere in between. I'm Charles Kelso, and it's my privilege to introduce the Earth Station Trek crew, Keith Johnson.
So I gotta wonder, do Klingons find it dishonorable to eat manufactured gach?
Alan Seiler.
There's got to be gach fast food places somewhere.
Wow, never thought of that.
And Veronica Dashel.
Hi.
And you might have gathered, but we'll be talking about the latest episode of Starfleet Academy this week, Vox and Excelso. Before we get started, though, I know, Keith, you're going to have This Week in Trek, but before we got into that, I had something that I wanted to say.
Yeah.
Because I've been very critical on the show in the past about the preschool series, Star Trek Scouts, which seems kind of silly because it's a preschool series. But, I mean, as someone who's a dad and raised a little girl, and also I spend a considerable portion of my time producing and performing puppet shows for children. And I was very disappointed when Star Trek Scouts came out, and I didn't think there was really much to recommend about it. But they have recently sort of rebooted Star Trek Scouts with a new premise. So gone are the days of a meteor that's a plate of spaghetti that they have to fire a fork at. And instead, they've rebooted the format with these holodeck rescues. So now the kids go on a holodeck, and it'll be an animal.
A cute little baby animal.
Some kind of animal from the Star Trek universe that has to be saved from a black hole or a volcano or something like that. And I think they have dramatically improved the show. So I wanted to give some props to Star Trek Scouts. I know that the preschool crowd, we haven't quite broken through to them yet with our podcast, but if you have kids in that age range, give it another shot. If you checked it out previously and didn't care for it, give it another shot. Check out the holodeck rescue episodes, because I think they've done a great job of sort of rebooting it and making it a little more tricky.
Okay.
Okay.
I will say,
How many episodes been out now?
I have no idea.
In that first one that they did in this new format, you shared a little link to it, so I thought, okay, I'll watch it. Okay. And it is better, it is cuter, but whatever the little girl's name is,
Rue,
used a tricorder to decide that the thing out there was a space whale, and then 2 minutes later she goes, "I speak space whale," and I'm like, okay, I'm still done. I know that's mean, I know that's just being an asshole. Sorry, we're preschool now. Being a little butt head, so I will just refrain.
Yeah, but there was a Gormagander, which they called by name, and they did a slingshot maneuver in that episode. So already we're way past the plate of spaghetti meteor and the booger meteor and things like that.
True.
I think they are heading in the right direction. So I wanted to give them props since I have previously called them out.
As long as it's not the exact same format with the exact same dialogue every episode like it was before.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pretty close, but
and because you say it's basically preschool level, you can get away with almost anything, I guess, in terms of scientific accuracy.
And setting it in the holodeck,
Yes.
gives you a lot of grace, I think.
Yes.
True.
Right.
Very
All right,
true.
Keith, you got some This Week in Trek this week?
Yes, sir. Let me run through this real quick. This is relevant because of what the Tonight Show is. And on the 25th of January, 1994, the final draft was delivered to DS9, which Terry Farrell talks about as one of her favorite episodes, of course, which that was the DS9 episode, Blood Oath.
That's a classic.
Yeah. And for those who may not know, that was the one where Jadzia basically meets the three most classic Klingons from the original series, Kor, Koloth, and Kang, who are going on a mission of revenge against this dude called the Albino. And Jadzia is going because her former host, Curzon, was a Klingon ambassador and the godfather of Kang's son, who was murdered by the Albino. So it's a good episode. One of the things I like about Terry Farrell, it started changing Terry Farrell's character. Because I don't think I realized on this level, when they first wrote out her character, they really wanted her to act like a quote unquote old man in a young woman's body. And that kind of didn't work. And if you look back, she is kind of overly serious. Then she puts in that kind of fun loving self. But this show gave her some meat, and she was acting with some veteran actors, and she loved the show. It's a good episode. Of course, this whole weirdness about the Trill not supposed to be involved with their former lives. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. It's a very good episode for DS9.
Yeah, initially the direction she was given by Rick Berman for her character was that she was Grace Kelly meets Yoda, and she had to figure out how to play that. But I think you're right. The pivot to turning Dax into more of a rogue, I think worked out very well for that character.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, it seemed to. And let's keep
perfect tie-in to our main discussion tonight.
Yeah. And speaking of that, and I did not know this because I am trying not to read anything. I don't even look at trailers for the episode coming up. So I just stumbled on this on the 26th of January, 1967, first day of filming of a little episode called Errand of Mercy.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Good one.
Of the Klingons in the Star Trek world. With John Calico says, somebody froze. I don't know if that was me or y'all. Another classic episode that established what is arguably the single most important. I don't know if you call them adversaries now, antagonist characters, alien races in Star Trek outside of the Vulcans.
Yeah, their relationship has been complex over the years.
That's very true. Ironically, then that was 1967. 1979, the same day, 26th of January, after 124 days of filming, Star Trek the Motion Picture wrapped filming at 10 o'clock at night. Okay. That's how bad that thing was.
Oh, wow. Also a big moment for the Klingons, for the Klingon evolution.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's when the forehead ridges showed up.
And the first time.
Yeah, another good one. Okay, now a couple more. 1998, January 26th is a crazy day. The final draft was delivered to Deep Space Nine for another classic episode, In the Pale Moonlight.
Okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, I know, right? Alan just made a fist for those who aren't looking because it's such an amazing episode. And I think there was one. Oh, this was another one that just lives on. 27th of January, 1998. First day of filming of, 1999. First was the premiere of Bride of Chaotica.
Okay.
From Voyager.
Nice.
This is
best episode ever.
Isn't that thing awesome, man?
It's a good and very diverse week of Trek.
Yeah.
Right.
That was our first introduction to photonic beings.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
first reference to a Sam type character.
Okay. And I listened to the podcast that Garrett Wong and Robbie McNeil, do, and he is still talking about trying to get something done with Bride of Chaotica. I think Charles, you mentioned that too. They are still trying to get something done with that, and they would both love to jump on that.
I'm sure.
Okay. Last two. This is relevant. 28th of January, 1998 was the first day of filming of Living Witness.
Okay, that's a great one.
Voyager episode where the copy of the Doctor wakes up 700 years in the future and still in the Delta Quadrant. I want to know where he is. Where is that guy? Because last thing they said, spoilers for those who haven't seen it, they said he borrowed the ship and headed back to the Alpha Quadrant. Where is that copy?
He was almost there, then the burn happened and he blew up.
Oh, wow. And let's end this on two turkeys. 29th of January, 1996 is the debut of Threshold.
Okay. Another classic, inarguably a classic.
Yeah, so bad.
I just watched that one on TV the other night.
And your thoughts?
I mean, it's still stupid.
Yeah. I like Threshold.
There's a lot of good stuff in Threshold. There really is.
It's like an Outer Limits episode.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, Alan, it's funny you said that. I hadn't seen that episode in like 15 years. And I watched it and listening to Garrett Wong and Robert Duncan McNeil covering on their podcast. And it is true. There's a lot of good stuff and a lot of good acting from Robbie. And then they turned him into salamanders or whatever. And you forget everything that was good in the episode.
Right.
There were salamanders and salamander babies. And Janeway was a salamander. And that's the entirety of the episode. Yeah,
and let's end this on the most ridiculous note of all. 31st of January, 1994 was the premiere of Sub Rosa.
Okay.
Beverly Crusher and the Ghost.
Don't get You know I love it. So
this is true.
From salamander sex to candle sex.
Right.
Our truck's got you covered.
Right. Welcome, preschoolers.
All right. Let's catch up with the comments before we get into this.
All right.
Oops, I muted myself at exactly the wrong moment there.
Uh-oh.
Matt says, Grumpy Klingon Matt has given way to Peppy Hologram Matt this week.
Yeah, interesting.
Yay.
And he also says, I can't wait for Elaine to see Blood Oath.
Same here.
Yes.
Good app.
Our buddy Wayne says, hey, y'all, do you remember that there was a sort of fast food restaurant on Deep Space Nine?
Yeah, but I don't think that was replicated. So I think it was like fresh. from my
Well, there was a Replomat.
yeah,
there
but
was a Replomat. Yeah.
But the restaurant was like an actual restaurant.
Okay.
I think. I don't know.
That was the one where the Klingon guy would sing to them, and Melora that time got into an argument with him, and he literally threw the stuff on the floor because she said it was bad. Gah.
Yeah.
And Matt wraps it up by saying that he would describe the Klingons as Star Trek's chief foils.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good word.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, off that, let's get into Vox and Excelso.
Which is Latin, and it means a voice on high.
Yep. Nice.
This is our second Latin title in a row. Last week
Oh,
was a
yeah.
Latin title also.
True. Yeah.
But it's a Klingon episode.
It's Vitas, not Vitus.
It's a Klingon episode.
Yes. And we've been wondering.
Yeah, I've been waiting for the 32nd century Klingons since season 3 of Discovery, which was one of the first things we talked about on our podcast. So the entire 5 years we've been doing this podcast, I've been wondering about the 32nd century Klingons. We finally got that this week. But also, I mean, I used to always look forward to the Klingon episodes.
Same here.
Yes, me too.
So how did this one hold up?
There's such a rich culture, and there's so much you can do with them. And I feel like they did this week.
Yeah.
We got an entire episode dedicated to the backstory of one of our main characters and his whole family structure and the state of the Klingon Empire at the moment. And it was very welcome, I will say.
What do you think, Keith?
Keith?
Uh-oh.
Oh, dear Lord.
Okay. Well, I loved it.
Excellent.
I thought this episode was great. This episode and Beta Test are my favorites so far this season. And I think they're both the Star Trek-iest ones. And I was just saying when we watched Beta Test, I could watch people stand around and debate galactic politics all week. And then this week they had Debate Club.
Debate Club.
I'm back now.
Awesome.
Yeah, I enjoyed it too. There's a couple things I'm not sure if I loved, but I thought it was, and we'll get into it. I thought it was rich. I thought they did an part of me, well, we'll get into it. Part of me kind of wonders about all these great races basically always getting jacked around. My God, everybody's getting hit by novas and stuff and stuff like this. Earth seems to be the only major planet unscathed in the future, but I really enjoyed it. I am continually to be impressed by the young actor playing Jaden. We'll get into that as well. And I got to say, this is one of the best looking Star Trek episodes I've ever seen. I don't know what the heck they were doing. That thing, it looked like a movie. I'm stunned how good it looked. Yeah, it was intriguing enough, so I can't wait to watch it again. There's a lot to unpack in this episode.
Oh yeah.
Just for the record, the actor is Karim Diane.
Thank you. I keep forgetting his name.
And he's really, really cool. He is the first one of the new cast. He's seemed like the first one who really jumped in to his role as a Star Trek actor, because he was constantly doing like social media content, both on his own and on behalf of the show. Like he's just really into it. And you can kind of tell that he's really invested in his job and in the role he plays. And I think that's really awesome.
And he disappears into the role because you see him just talking and acting normally. Yeah. And you don't see Jaden.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? Yeah.
They're two very, very different personalities. It's really, really great.
Well, prior to this, I mean, the only real reference I remember to the Discovery era Klingons was that there's an episode of Discovery where there was a map they were looking at, and there was a section marked Klingon Zone. And even then, I remember people speculating, like, how come it doesn't say Empire? How come it just says Klingon Zone? And I think we got a solid answer to that this week, that the Klingons were heavy into the dilithium generators on their planets. And when the burn happened, it wasn't just ships that were affected, but those dilithium generators went up as well and rendered a lot of their planets uninhabitable. Yeah,
that's unfortunate. They said billions died. It's funny. At first, I was thinking, well, I thought they said it was only ships and warp, but actually warp drive has nothing to do with it, because, you pass the matter and antimatter through the dilithium crystals to get power out of it. So yeah, they were using that on their planet. I guess it's lucky the whole planet didn't completely blow up.
And I think it tracks for the Klingons, because we had, in the situation they had when Praxis exploded in Star Trek 6 was that there was overmining, insufficient safety precautions. And so I think it tracks that something like that again happened to the Klingons later on.
That's a great point. I didn't even think of that.
It's very interesting how they, and I actually kind of like this. It's very interesting how they typify that 1,000 or 120 years later, but the Klingons are still holding on to their culture, as in they are basically almost going to say, we'd rather, the standard, I'd rather die on my feet, die standing than live on my knees. Not that taking help is living on their knees, but they still hold to that culture. A lot of them, not all of them, I guess, but a lot of them. Very interesting.
Yeah, they're very much hanging on to their pride.
Yeah.
And this would be, I mean, what was the burn, like 120 years ago? So
Yeah.
Probably just before the living memory of Klingons that are alive, So, I mean, you're dealing with almost all Klingons who have heard of the Klingon Empire, right? But none of them really experienced it.
Right.
Welcome back.
Thanks.
What did you think of the episode?
I loved it. It was fantastic.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
I thought there was a lot of great character stuff in this too.
Yeah, there was.
What'd you love about it, Veronica?
I really loved seeing what had been going on with the Klingons and seeing how Jaden interacted with his family and seeing his parents and seeing how much his brother was encouraging of him into going into Starfleet. It was really sweet. Yes. And I really liked his growth throughout the episode.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of growth, and I know this is getting into a slightly different topic, so we don't have to dwell here or anything, but Charles, you said something about the character work in this episode. It's not just Jaden that we get a lot of like really great insight into, but it feels like Mir is almost a completely new character now. Like they have really dug him out of the quote unquote mire of what he's been in for the last 3 weeks. And he is really growing a lot. And I'm very excited to see it.
Yeah, but without rebooting him, because he's still very much leaning into the fact that he's collecting food because his mother is always with him in his mind, right? And they always talked about going to Earth and having the food and things like he's sort of studying all these facts and be able to regurgitate all these facts in his debates because as a skill he learned in prison was that knowledge is power. And that the debates he's looking at as like a combat. Yeah, I thought that all tied in very well with what we know about him, but made him a lot more likable, a lot more sympathetic than just hacking in various databases trying to find his mom.
Yes, and finding that bond with Jaden and basically we're brothers, and Jaden being like, we are not brothers.
Right.
But there's a reason why Jaden says that. And you get so into the weeds of both of these characters, and I thought it was really, really well done.
And really, like, it's like Mir is looking for that relationship, I think, because he's an orphan.
Yeah.
But then Jaden is backing it for because Mir reminds him of his own brother who he misses. So it's like I just love when I thought they did a great job of dovetailing those two characters in this story. And I mean, you learn a lot about them through it. But also, I thought that it was a small part, but I loved Lura Thawk's part in this because we've seen her as sort of the drill sergeant. We've seen her as sort of comic relief, but having her with a real tender moment where she says, like, I've never been a Klingon elder before. I've never mentored a younger Klingon before, and I should have. And letting her step into that role, I thought was a great turn for that character.
And I think that's super important too, because even visually, you think of her as a Jem'Hadar. You kind of forget maybe that she is also Klingon, and this was a really great reminder of who she is and where she's come from. And I thought that was a great moment for her.
I did too, because I wrote in my notes, even though obviously she doesn't look Klingon. I guess I hadn't thought about that, Alan, because I was wondering why she didn't talk to the Klingon leader, because even though she's only half Klingon, she has the Klingon heritage, and she's in Starfleet. And she was in the War College. And so I thought she would have been a great person to talk to him. So I wondered why they didn't put her forward. But I do love the scene that she had with Jaden, because it makes sense that she talked to him. And I love the way she said that. She's also a good enough actress such that she can handle the drama. She's not always going to be yelling, like, give me 120 push-ups.
Yeah.
I thought she did she and Jet Reno are very interesting. They both have an interesting sense of humor, but they also do drama very well, I think, when called upon. So I love that scene as well.
And I love how they're trickling in the backstory. That's been a big question for people is how is there a Jem'Hadar Klingon woman? Right.
Right.
But they're trickling that in. And now we found out this week that like her Klingon grandparents, like left their house to join the Jem'Hadar in a battle, and she's descended from the free Jem'Hadar. We're just getting little bits, like there's not a big info dump about it. We're just getting little snippets here and there to sort of put this backstory together.
Right.
And you can see some of the stuff that's realistic. I could see Klingons for honor joining Jem'Hadar in an honorable battle. And I could see, because Klingons can be, let's face it, kind of racist, borderline xenophobic. And I could see some Klingons going, you can't do that. They're not us. You can see them doing that for honor. Klingons do it. Like has been said about Vulcans and Klingons, you can wrap logic and honor to almost do anything you want to do.
Right. So as a complete aside, that has nothing at all to do with this episode, something that's happened this past week, and it's happened numerous times in different Doctor Who Facebook groups from different people, all think that she is Jo Martin, who is the renegade doctor in Doctor Who. But they think that she's the one who's playing Laura Thok. And they post stupid things. It's like, oh my gosh, look, the renegade is now whatever. And people are like, that is not her. All you have to do is do 3 seconds of Googling, and you'll know that is not Jo Martin.
Or read the credits of both shows.
Or read the credits, exactly.
Right.
Okay, now let's get some. I've been bent out of shape about that because it's just so dumb. So let me get some comments. Well, first one comes from Matt, who says, Jaden's brother recognizing and respecting his differences hits me really hard. I grew up feeling very different than my family and could have used a relative like that.
Wow.
I'm in kind of the same boat there, Matt. Thanks for saying that. Wayne says, this may sound silly, but I'd like Jaden to raise his voice in anger to the level of his father just once. Also, maybe they intentionally built in a lot of room for Mir to grow.
Probably.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Elaine chimes in by saying there was growth with Durham, too. That's true. I loved that when he helped Jaden learn the battle breathing technique, and then he helped Caleb know about the busted Starfleet beacon. Yeah, those were great moments. Okay, one more. Since Matt just snuck in. Elaine and Matt Watch TV knows she's not from Doctor Who. She was in Bob Hart's.
Yeah.
All right. That catches us up on
I
the
have a
comment.
random comment about this episode.
Okay.
There was a Ferengi with correct Ferengi ears.
Wow.
I missed it.
It's at the beginning before the
It's
credits.
in profile.
It's in profile, and it just goes by. And I tried to get a picture of it, but the stupid Paramount, as soon as you pause it, it pops up an advertisement.
That you can't pause it anymore.
And then it gets very mad, and then they're like trying to start the episode again, and then you're like, start from the beginning. I'm just like,
you were trying to see that Ferengi's ears. I was trying to see that screen to see if that Klingon ship had crashed on Taurus 2.
Yeah,
because that was the planet that the Galileo 7 crashed on.
Wow. I didn't even put that together.
Yeah.
I had one thing in my notes where I was wondering, why is the doctor teaching debate? Because he's a doctor. But it's not the biggest deal in the world, because one thing he said I loved, which Veronica, or what do you guys talking about opening, your opening line introducing the show, I debated myself into existence, is a hell of a funny and deep statement at the same time. And then he said, I could argue that you do not exist. That is funny and deep at the same time.
Yeah.
That really was great.
Yep. And true, because the doctor was sort of arguing for his ability to expand his program.
Absolutely.
Back when he was like a stock EMH.
Yeah.
So that the being that exists today, he really did debate himself into existence. We saw it on screen. I think he's a natural for this. I thought this was a great use of the doctor.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed that's really weird, even when I have nitpicks about the show, and this is something I know people said about Voyager when it first started, even if you don't like the plot or the episode, everybody comes off as incredibly competent actors. You believe all the characters. And I don't know if that's the directing, the writing, the actors they hired, but it's kind of like when Voyager first came together, whether you like Voyager or not, everybody they kind of fit, even if you don't like how the characters did and didn't develop later. They all work. I don't feel as if anybody's phoning it in. I'm not watching anybody quote unquote act yet, and that's surprising to me. I don't know if I expect the show to be that competently put together so quickly.
Yeah, I think they all do. I mean, we're only on episode 4.
Mhm.
But I think they're all doing a really good job of embodying their characters. And, you know, like was just mentioned that they built in room for Caleb to grow. And I mean, my hope is by the end, it'll be like going back to watch early DS9, you know, because and seeing where those characters started, and especially someone like Bashir, who was had built-in time to grow. And a lot of people didn't like it at the start. But I mean, we're not going to get 120 episodes of this show under any circumstances. But I mean, I think they're making great progress so far already.
Yeah, I will say that this is the first time since episode 1 that I felt like the runtime wasn't longer than the episode material. I felt like this fit the 1 hour time slot really, really nicely.
Okay. Yeah, and I think it helped that they had the flashbacks to Jaden's life to sort of to pad it out. But also, I mean, they're sort of packing a lot in character wise and story wise into this episode, which I mean I loved. And I liked that they did little things like they had the Klingons had the bow.
Yeah.
Which it looked a little reminiscent of a batleth, but it wasn't just a batleth again, right? It was something, and they were hunting a bird of prey. So things that feel like they belong with Klingons, but not necessarily that we've seen before. I don't know that we've ever seen Klingons hunting with a bow and arrow that I can recall.
Yeah,
but I think
I remember that myself.
I thought it felt very Klingon though.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
So what did you think about the portrayal of Jaden's family members? We didn't get to see as much of the mother as I would have liked.
Yeah, because he talks about how he got a lot of his, like, or in previous episodes, how he got a lot of his caring for animals and other people from his mom.
Yeah.
Did you note that his family's a triad? That he's got 2 fathers and a mother.
Yes.
So dad number 2 didn't get a lot of screen time, but dad number 1 got a lot of screen time. What I thought was a nice little touch. I think the second polyamory reference we've had on this show just in 4 episodes. I think the last one was about the Darum's backstory with the Keonians. But no, I mean, they were sort of wandering around a forest. But I kind of liked that it was just a forest and the bird was just a bird.
Yeah.
And it wasn't something crazy. Because a lot of times now on the new Star Trek, you go to a planet and it's something crazy. There'll be a flying fish and, you know, they're on an AR wall and all this stuff. But I kind of like they're just walking around in the woods like an old sci-fi show.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought that was a nice touch. But no, I kind of liked his backstory. I mean, they mentioned like being in refugee camps, but all you really saw was him and his family walking around in the woods together. And I thought that's what you needed for the story, right? You don't need a multi-million-dollar refugee camp to tell the story that they're trying to tell. So I thought that was great.
Plus, in our modern shows, we always love when they give us location filming, and that's this whole Klingon subplot was built on location footage, and it was all like off ship, and you get a greater sense of the world in which these characters live, and it was really nicely shot too, because the color palette that it used was very different than what you would see on the ship. So it was, I thought, really well done.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I agree. Veronica, I don't know if you're here just for, I think just for you got here off saying this is one of the best looking episodes I've ever seen of Star Trek, period. It was just, as Alan was saying, the outdoors color palette and stuff it looked like a movie. I was impressed. And, you know, sometimes I know people say all you got to do is grunt and act violent to play a Klingon. But I thought the actor who played his brother, I thought he inhabited the role well. When he was basically dying, he was laughing. I thought that that's not a Klingon. Mother. He basically said you should have seen the other guy.
Yeah.
There was a lot of like Klingon voices in this.
Yeah.
But I thought they all did good. I liked his family and I liked his backstory, and I thought it made sense to inform the character. So yeah, I got no complaints there.
I like that as they got into the later part of the episode with Jaden, he made a comment something like, there are as many kinds of warriors as there are Klingons. And that's the thing that people tend to forget, that Klingons a warrior race, and how can you have this kid in Starfleet who is a bird watcher and blah 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 and a healer? And I'm like, as I've said on this show many times, there are lots of different kinds of warriors,
right?
And I'm so glad that they actually like put that in the dialogue.
Yeah.
And in the TNG episode Heart of Glory, when Worf encountered the surviving two Klingons who were upset because they felt their people had lost their way, when the final guy Worf killed, before Worf kills him, the guy basically told Worf he wasn't a real Klingon, and Worf, to your point, Alan, Worf said, the battle is in here. And he pointed to himself. He said, the battle is in here. That's the battle we fight, because they're basically like, we got to go kill somebody and conquer somebody to be real Klingons. And I always thought that was a very interesting thing. I wonder why they hate Starfleet so much, as in they don't even want to touch Starfleet technology. I wonder what that's all about.
No, I think that it goes back to them not wanting to accept charity. It's like their pride is like they're going to cling to their pride and they're going to die as a result of it, which is what I got from this episode. Where it's like, we don't need the Federation tech, we don't need the Federation's charity, we don't need the Federation's planet. That's sort of a theme that was running through the episode. But I mean, you think about like this species not too long ago was the Klingon Empire.
Yeah.
And now they're homeless refugees, like scrabbling around trying to survive. And probably, I mean, we know that they were telling the stories of Kalis, but also, I mean, probably telling stories across the Empire of how that we are the great Klingon Empire, or we were, you know? So I think that's that's what I took from that. Wasn't that they hated Starfleet or the Federation, but was just that we're not taking any outside help. Like, we don't need it.
Right. I agree. A couple of comments. First, Elaine points out the naming of USS Riker, which we got during this episode.
It was
rolled your eyes. Aw.
I don't mind one of them. The others had just random names. If it was like,
yeah,
I think the Academy does it a little too much. But if it was like the Riker and the Tucker and the Scott, you know, I think that's
yes,
Scott.
Matt says it was interesting having the stories of Kailash described as a myth. I can imagine Worf chafing at that description in Next Gen or DS9.
Yeah, of course.
I remember someone mentioned the pray to the Klingon gods, and I'm like, but they killed them all.
Yeah, of course. Kalis is now 2,000 years in their past, so maybe they would. Also, notice they the first time they pronounced Kalis as Kailash.
I love that about the new Star Trek shows.
Me too.
They actually pronounce the Klingon language the way it is in the books, the way that Mark Ocran came up with it. Because on the 90s Treks, they didn't even try. Like, there's no S sound in the Klingon language. There's no K sound.
I did not know that.
It's all sort of guttural, and like the S sounds like a sh. And so Discovery, I think, did the best job with the Klingon language of any of the Star Treks have. But they're continuing those pronunciations now. But I do see a lot of people online like, how come they keep putting sh sounds on the end of the Klingon language? It's like, well, but that's the Klingon language, you know.
Fascinating.
The only thing that really struck me, because I loved the way that they pronounced all that stuff, but the one that kind of got me was Sam talking about the Kitomer.
I know,
and I was like, and maybe that was what it was supposed to have been all along. Who knows?
Maybe. I mean, she also mispronounced Gwendala's name in the first episode, so maybe that's just a Sam thing too.
It could be just a Sam thing.
But I did catch that Katomer thing, like the Katomer Accords.
Yeah, right. Okay. Elaine says, I really loved Laura Thock's take on why Jaden's father missed the bird with the arrow. I got
to give them credit, because as soon as he missed, I literally wrote down in my notebook fiercely, like, you know, the Star Trek nerd you can be sometimes. A Klingon wouldn't miss that bird. I mean, it was a nitpick I wrote, and then they handled it. I'll be darned. Okay, I gave them props.
Yeah. and the way she phrased it, the battle was between Jaden and his father, and Jaden won, and he decided to let him go.
Yes.
I thought that was a great recharacterization of that scene that I'm not too long ago had seen. That he didn't get mad and miss the bird and then abandon his son. He set him free.
Yeah, but you know, I guess that's Klingon love. My parents would at least say, "Hey, Keith, we love you. We're gonna let you go." They got in the spaceship and just left.
I don't know. You never threw a fit in the driveway, and your mom drove around the block to teach you a lesson. Maybe they came back and he was gone.
No, she didn't do that for me. And it was actually kind of heartbreaking, because he's a very interesting actor. I wrote in my notes, he can convey tenderness and toughness at the same time. And when he was basically he was sitting there saying, no, come back. It was actually heartbreaking. He has very expressive eyes, and he really is doing a very conflicted, complex character extremely well.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, that Klingon voice can't be easy to maintain.
No.
And like I said before, like if you look at early Worf, he had kind of a voice. I am a Klingon. And Teal'c on Stargate was that way too. Yeah. But I think if Jaden was having to do 22 episodes for 7 or 10 years, it would probably get closer to his normal voice, like Worf's did and like Teal'c's did. Bring it down a notch. But he may be able to maintain it, only doing 10 episodes a season.
Yeah.
True. All right. Let me get one last comment, and then is it okay if we take a break and then
sure?
Because there's never mind. Let me just read this comment. Why am I interrupting myself? Anyway, Wayne says, I think it was more about, I think I'm reading this right. I think it was more the way the Federation not understanding Klingon culture than it is the Klingons hating the Federation.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Well, yeah, I think we saw that throughout the episode that they kept insisting that we should help them. We should give them and not picking up what the Klingons were laying down, that like we're not accepting this charity from you. You know, and that's something, I mean, they that was a big plot point in the beginning of Discovery when like the whole Klingon hello thing was that the Vulcans had learned that you meet the Klingon on their terms and open fire at them when you meet them. And that was how the Vulcans had sort of come up with an uneasy not just uneasy coexistence with the Klingons.
Yeah. But that's a point I want to get into when we come back from our break. Okay. So here we go.
And we're back.
Okay, so this whole thing about this whole episode kind of was predicated on the idea of two different cultures not understanding each other. When we got to the point, first of all, I want to talk about Ake and this Klingon dude that she's known for decades, because I thought their relationship was really interesting. But when they introduced this idea of a planet that is very like Kronos, and see, I'm trying to say it like they say it now. Not doing a great job, but I'm trying. And that it would be a perfect new home for the Klingons, but the Klingons won't accept charity. I knew they were going to stage a battle, and the Klingons would feel like, yes, absolutely.
Interesting.
And the Klingons would feel like they have taken possession of that planet instead of it being given to them. I knew that's what was going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I thought the interesting thing about the battle itself was that there was no casualties on either side. Like, it's like both sides knew that this is for show.
Yeah.
But like the Starfleet had to figure out how to give this planet, and the Klingons they could receive it without damaging their pride. You know
exactly.
But I said so they all went through the little charade together. But I agree with you about that guy, and I want to get into him. But I love. Yeah. We'll get into the battle as well. Let's get into the guy first, because I'm
okay. Sounds good.
I thought I thought them having had a past love was a little obvious. I don't know if we needed that.
Well, that's a Star Trek thing. Like if a special dignitary comes on the ship, he's somebody's ex or somebody's
right.
Or like like Riker's dad was both. You know, sometimes you get a twofer.
Right.
I liked it. I liked it as a little way to sneak in a little previous love interest of Ake's, build her character a little bit in a different direction than what we see her often as the captain or as the chancellor, but not entertaining a gentleman caller in her quarters, you know. But I thought the guy was great. I thought he was very believable as like the leader of the Klingon Empire in this era, or the Klingons in this era. Like he wasn't like a Gowron. He seemed a lot more world weary, and because he's leading a very different group of Klingons than what like a Gowron or Gorkon or Kempek or whomever.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I thought, and I thought he walked the line very well between, because at the end of the day, as reasonable as he was he also went back to forget it. We're out of here. So I like that too. He's still holding on to the Klingon values, even as you said, he wanted to do something different. That's an interesting position to be in, I think.
Yeah. And he's also trying to hold these Klingon houses together. And they told that story several times about how Kalish had brought all the houses together in conquest, and they sort of set it up from the very first scene of this story that that's something that the Klingons would accept. But I mean, Ake even mentioned that the Klingons, like he'd be run out on a rail if he tried to say thank you very much for this free planet. We'll accept your charity and become, refugees in Federation space. But she gave him a way to accept that planet that the other Klingons would accept.
Yeah, it reminds me of the TNG episode when Riker served on the Klingon ship for like 10 minutes. And remember at the end of the show, he had basically embarrassed the captain. He basically talked trash and let the captain knock the crap out of him. And the other guy's like, man, you really learned our ways real fast, because he allowed the captain to save face. And then the captain basically talked trash to him, get off my ship. So, yeah, I thought the battle was very interesting. And now, and think about 100 years now, they'll be singing songs about how they defeated the mighty fleet, because they're Klingons. They're going to sing songs about that.
They sent the Starfleet running.
They have to build up the legend.
Yeah.
And especially in the position that they're in currently, where societally speaking, they're in a really precarious situation. They have to build up this basically a new society from the ground up.
Yeah.
So yeah, they'll absolutely do that.
Yeah,
and
they'll have to hold themselves together.
And their pride in being Klingon is really all they have left at this point.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But also, I mean, there's always been something performative to the whole Klingon honor thing.
Right.
And I think that's just always been a part of it. So I thought that whole thing worked very well.
Yeah, it may be a weird comment, but I actually like seeing the people running the franchise keep a race that's kind of sort of about violence and fighting, which sounds really weird, but as much as I believe in peace and all that kind of enlightenment and stuff, it's still nice to see some people who are frankly kind of warriors. Mm-hmm. I like it that they're not detoothing the Klingons, in other words.
Right. Right.
What do you think about we've already had the Romulans losing their home world and becoming refugees. And now we got the Klingons going through a similar sort of thing. How do you feel about all of our old major races becoming refugees?
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. It's like everybody but Earth seems to have gotten jacked really badly. Yeah, like is all the major races changed and left their planet or lost their planet? It's kind of weird. Yeah. Interesting.
And I don't mind it. I mean, especially as much time has gone by. But I do think, like, especially if the Klingons are going to eventually join the Federation or something, like at some point, like they need to introduce some new powers. Like there's somebody else should have risen to sort of fill these power vacuums or moved in from outside territory. That's something that, I mean, I've harped on this before, but I mean, 9 years now of the new Star Trek era, and we don't have a real new, like, big alien antagonist that's memorable.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I remember when they talked about the Dominion War in Deep Space Nine. They started talking about the war when the Klingon Civil War was going to happen in TNG. To what you were saying, Charles, one of the races they talked about could be pulled in was Litholians. So yeah, I'm also interested about all these other races that could be around the perimeter of what was the Klingon Empire. Sure. And frankly, there's limitless story opportunity, because 30 years from now, the Klingons on that planet could have a fleet and say, we're going to take our home back because they're Klingons. Sure. You can go all kinds of ways with that.
Yeah. But I don't think the Klingons lost their home. It sounds like it got blown up or something.
Yeah. But they lost their space, their empire. I could see them one day going, we want our empire back, because it's kind of going on in our real world right now.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let's get to that big battle at the end before we run out of time, because I love that, for one, like the Klingon ships all look like Klingon ships.
Yes.
Which you don't always get. But also, like, in particular, like you remember, like the old DS9 Cardassian freighter that one time they painted it green and it was a Klingon freighter. Those looking ships were flying around in there, and just all the different Klingon ships. And I think they're still borrowing assets from Star Trek Online, but that works, because I was just pleased that it just all looked like Klingon ships. But I love that moment when he was like, "Are you declaring war on us?" And he gets a little smirk, and the Klingon music starts kicking in, and it's like, "Yeah, we're back."
Yeah. And a slight, highly subjective aesthetic comment. I was so happy to see an actual laser beam or phaser beam that was a long beam of light, rather than the little blaster types they've used in the new thing. I just like to see the old school beams from the Klingon ships. I thought that was pretty cool. And it's funny again, because they kept getting me where I kept writing down stuff, because I was writing my notes. I was like, it's like the Athena kept getting hit, and it's like, but she's not taking any damage. What the hey? And then, of course, as you said, everybody knew what was going on. So, because at the end, he goes, "Hey, no casualties." Oh, okay.
Thank you for your mercy. Yeah, no casualties on either side.
Right.
What did you think about the whole debate angle that gave Aki the idea? Because it's like this, the debate, was it too obvious for you that worked? The debate that then gave her the idea of how to solve the diplomacy.
I think it worked for me. And especially, I mean, we need to see the cadets doing cadet things and also tying it into the story. So I love that, we'll get little bits of them in class. But I mean, I think debate club is a perfectly reasonable thing to have at Starfleet Academy. And like I said, you could stand people at daises and talk about galactic politics all day long, and I'll be fine.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting. As soon as they started the debate, Jaden and Caleb, I was again writing in my notes. I was like, this is not a formal debate, because Caleb literally started interrupting Jaden from the start. But then you see where the whole thing went. Because when the doctor was like, hey, you can't basically talk to the other person. It went from resolve to you and this and that. And I thought that was really interesting.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just a great excuse to have the two characters in particular stand up on the stage and sort of go at each other.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Comments. We may have already answered this already, but if you have more to say about it, Matt says, isn't it dishonorable to win a phony battle?
Well, Matt, like I said earlier, they comment in Star Trek more than once about both logic and Klingon honor, is they can twist it to whatever they want. So I think they just won't talk about it. And in TNG, there was an episode. Remember the episode when Picard was trying to get a hold of Gowron? And you guys may have just watched it, Elaine and Matt. When the attaché answered the phone, basically, Worf said Gowron was basically rewriting history. Basically rewriting recent history to make him like the savior of the Klingon Empire. So,
Anyway, Matt says, Ake probably has ex-lovers all over the galaxy.
I'm sure.
Oh, did y'all catch? Because I was thinking of something else when y'all were talking about this, but when they were in her quarters and drinking, and then they started throwing the cups into the fire, did y'all hear what they were saying?
No,
not exactly.
They said "Duck Josh."
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Which is happy day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's happy birthday.
Okay. Wayne says the battle came off like the Klingon leader went off the air and said, "By Jove, they've got it."
Okay.
He says his grin said it all.
I thought that was well played.
Matt says, I wonder if Kirk would have reacted to this situation like his Star Trek 6, let them die.
I think it's a very different situation at this point.
Very different. Yeah. Okay. Wayne says, let's see. Oh, talking to Matt about the phony battle comment. The Klingons are not about ceremony and symbolism.
I disagree.
Yeah.
Right. That's all they're about.
Not above it.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
not above it.
Okay.
There we go. And there we go.
They're all about it.
Yes, they are. And then Elaine wraps us up by saying, oh, I loved how the saucer detached from the wings to go to battle with the Klingons. Yes.
Yeah. And we've previously seen the wings, which are also the nacelles, detached from the ship proper. Yeah. And now we've seen the saucer itself lift off, which I think is a great touch, because you'd want to separate the school in a combat situation, right?
Absolutely.
Something that I'd noticed before, I mean, the wing pattern on the ship is something that's unique. We've never really seen that on a Star Trek ship before. But it's been pointed out that the Romulans are now part of the Federation, right? But then in this episode, I noticed that the Athena was firing green energy bolts instead of the traditional red or blue that Starfleet usually does. And I even saw a comment on Facebook today that was like, is Athena a Starfleet warbird?
Yeah.
I think it actually makes sense to include Romulan elements into the newer ships.
Interesting.
And I saw some, I don't remember if it was today or maybe earlier in the week, I saw some chatter in various places about the supposed Romulan influence of this design. And I thought, that's so clever. I'd never thought of that.
Yeah.
But it makes total sense.
Absolutely. I'm interested to find out more about the ship itself. I was reading, and I posted in our Facebook group some articles and concept art about sort of the design work that went into the ship. Because that stairwell, I think it's the Uhura atrium, where there's the stairwell in the big window we see a lot.
Wow.
That window is right above the deflector, which is at sort of down towards the base of the neck.
Yeah.
But then we've seen on the show that you can look up from there. You see all the way up the neck and up the
Yes.
saucer to the very top of the skylight. So I'm
Yes.
wondering, and it looked like, I mean, I thought maybe it was a programmable matter thing because all of a sudden I was like, how do they lift it off from there without? But it looks like there's some kind of big blast doors. I don't know. I just think it's a really cool, well thought out and well designed ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Question about military. I found interesting in one of the debates, Caleb said that the War College was a college not attached, not associated with a military, which I thought was an interesting comment because isn't the War College all about being military?
Yeah, but I think the argument that she was making was that the War College should be put on Luna as a defense. And I think he was pointing out that it's not a branch of the military itself, it's a school, right? So I think that the idea of relying on the students to, like, you know, I mean, it's not like having a military base there, but I guess it could be. I mean, I think that someone was just eager to get the War College moved to the moon.
I wonder why.
Right.
Right.
That's the worst.
Yeah, very interesting. I just thought that was a very interesting I've seen a lot of people online have debates about whether I listened to a viewer last week who was very upset with the war simulation, the battle simulation in last week's episode. Okay. And it's always going to be this case. There's a lot of people who just hate the concept of anything associated with Starfleet being quote unquote military. But one of the things I noted and I wrote in my notes is if that ship keeps taking off, the school and ship keeps taking off and going into space, those kids better learn to fight because I don't know where they're going half the time. Anybody could show up, and then Paul Giamatti's still lurking out there. And if it's like any regular Star Trek episode, there's always something every week that could get them. So they need to learn to fight, even if that's not their primary goal.
Yeah, they need to be learning hand-to-hand combat at the Academy, but also use of various weapons. I mean, there should be whole classes about them learning to use a Lurpa and learning to use a Batleth and you know, doing like you would think. Maybe less so in this era, but you would think like in Kirk's era, they'd be teaching them what Klingon martial arts they know because you can counter it, right? So if you're fighting an adversary, you can hold your own. I guess that like in Kirk's era, it was more like just the big slug them. was the move. Occasionally jump off the wall and hit him with your butt.
Yeah,
I remember handed chop. That was back then.
Yeah. I remember in the Day of the Dove, what you said, Charles. Remember Kirk said in the Day of the Dove when the entity turned all the phasers into those swords. Kirk said the Klingons have maintained a dueling tradition. It's going to be hard to defeat them because the Klingons they go from phasers to swords. They know how to fight. And I've always thought that was very important.
Now I really just want a scene where they're all in gym class learning the two-handed chop. Classic Starfleet move.
Right.
Oh, that would be funny.
And the one character who just can't quite get it right.
Right.
And the flying Kirk kick.
Yes. The whole Kirk Fu class would be amazing.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that would be great.
Well, let's talk about Darum because Darum was a big focus last week, and he was portrayed very differently this week. I thought that was a very different side of Darum that we saw this week when he came to help out Jaden. So, I mean, what do we think about Darum this week?
That was interesting. I'm curious about his people because one of the questions that keeps going around is if he can do shape-shifting, and he is doing shape-shifting like Odo did shape-shifting, why does he look like a human all the time if his native look is whatever that other thing was? We don't know.
Well, I mean, his native look is kind of fish guy. So maybe fish guy is better for underwater.
For outer space.
Yeah. Or outer space. Sure.
Yeah. It's another one I'm intrigued because he has some kind of warrior background, or maybe he's from a royal family and he got taught. I don't know. But I thought the breeding stuff was very interesting. One thing I'll give them credit for throughout 4 episodes, even within episodes, every time I kind of think the show may spin apart because I'm thinking, I don't know if that makes sense, they kind of pull me back in. It's almost like they're saying, hold on, we'll explain that for you. Yeah. So I'm intrigued by his character.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I'm interested in what they're building between Jaden and Darum because in the first episode, he was kind of showing up as a bully and was kind of picking on. They were kind of antagonistic. This week, it was a lot. It was a pretty intimate scene between the two of them. And I was watching like, did they know this was going to be this hot when they shot it? You know?
Yeah. It was
so I'm wondering if they're building towards something romantic between those characters. Veronica, you made a comment about it.
Yeah, I was like, they're gonna try and make that seem like it's a romantic thing.
It might be.
Yeah.
The only thing I don't think it was supposed to be, but
Really?
but what's his face kept looking at Jaden's lips while he was like talking to him. I was just like,
last week there was a lot of folks on social media that really picked up on like the Jaden and Kyle. Like people were shipping Jaden and like Kyle from the War College, and they barely were in a scene together. So when I saw that scene this week, I was like, oh, they're gonna love this.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm interested to see if it's going somewhere or where they're going with it, if anywhere.
Let me get one last comment. Wayne says, I mentioned this last week and it wasn't brought up. The Academy and the War College were all inclusive in the original Academy.
Kind of like in Enterprise where they had the Makos and then they had Malcolm's branch, and then they ultimately merged into some kind of one security in the future. I guess that's what he's saying.
Yeah, I think so, because we only saw little bits and pieces of it, but like there was Colonel West in Star Trek 6, who seemed a lot more militaristic, and that was sort of his focus, but he was in a Starfleet uniform. But then we had those dudes in DS9, and the one where Jake Sisko was on the planet, and those guys were sort of like Marine-ish with different like combat outfits on. You remember what I'm talking about? And those guys seemed much more like the Starfleet foot soldiers. So I think Starfleet always had something, but I think that Starfleet, they sort of ended the academy and morphed into the War College, but the War College is still putting out Starfleet officers. So I think the War College is still Starfleet. They still wear a Starfleet uniform and Starfleet Delta. And then Lura Thok even said that she went to the War College, because I think that just as a matter of necessity during the burn, they had to drop all this, learning about mythology and biology and studying mushrooms and all the, they probably didn't have debate club. They were learning how to defend the Federation and keep what little territory and resources they had left.
Yeah, I don't think it's canon, but I remember reading one of the Star Trek novels. They said that Kirk was part of a class that was chosen, even though he was a borderline genius. Kirk's class was chosen not because they were intellectuals, but because they were survivors. Because at that time, they thought Starfleet had gotten a little too peaceful, and I think they had a little bit too much trouble winning some battles. So that kind of goes up and down. And even though I don't hate Star Trek in the Darkness as much as most people do, I do think that the central concept, the question of, are we an exploratory body or do we build battleships, is very important. Because remember, even in Deep Space Nine, the Defiant was considered kind of an aberration because of the Borg. And they even said Starfleet doesn't build battleships anymore. I think any society is going to have that battle. Peaceful, warlike.
That's come up before on Star Trek, where it's like, come in peace, but our starship could wipe the face of your planet.
We come in peace. Shoot to kill, shoot to kill.
Right. Good thing for you, we come in peace. We'll just put it
exactly.
One last quick thing I'm going to say for me, that I'm going to end on a silly note. I work in IT, and I wrote in my notes, I could make a fortune by clearing up the static in every hologram signal in every science fiction show, because they made sure that Vance's glitched a couple of times, which I thought was funny.
But he's not there. He's
exactly.
This time that actually worked for me, though, because at first I was like, what the heck is Vance doing here? And then he glitched. But also, like, what the heck is Vance doing there? We didn't need Vance in this story. I mean, I think Vance seemed kind of superfluous. I think it would have been stronger for Ake if she was leading this situation. She was talking to the Klingon. You don't need an admiral from across the galaxy to beam into the bridge and talk to the Klingons.
Unless, is he speaking for the council or whatever? Because he keeps making a lot of diplomatic decisions. I wonder if that's what that's supposed to be.
I mean, that could be. I mean, we've seen before, though, there was a Federation president and there's a council. Remember, there was like a jillion of them. They had those in the big debates. So I don't know. Now it looks like it's just Vance. He's just giving away planets. He's moving the seat of government.
It'd be funny, like in real life, if they showed and he had on like a pair of spotted underwear. He's like he's got his military top on and stuff like that, because they're gonna pop in like that.
I would love a short where it's like Vance and it's like his quarterly review or whatever, and it's like, wait, did you promise Beta Z they could be the capital of the Federation? And then the next week, did you declare war on the Klingon Empire? He's like, look, you had to be there.
That's right.
They knew I was just fooling.
Who could relate to that is Kirk.
But
Kirk.
But Kirk didn't. I mean, every time there was an admiral on Kirk's ship, that admiral was a jackass.
Yes.
There was never any good admiral that took over for him.
So
I wish they would just let Ake be out there and be the captain.
Agreed. And we're going to get that, I'm sure.
Yeah. Same here.
2 last comments just to wrap this whole shebang up. Matt says, is this show going to be heated rivalry? Elaine says, it could just be all the guys are hot for Jaden, but he's oblivious to it all. Next week on Star Trek Heated Klingon.
He didn't seem totally oblivious this week.
Well, yeah, was he oblivious, or was he almost pushed him away, like he didn't want to even think about getting into a relationship? His reaction, I couldn't quite read.
Yeah, I don't know if it was that or if it was, I got a lot going on this week. Like, not now, dude.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't know.
Yeah, but there was something there, because he didn't just pull away. He all but pushed him away, and it was more like, don't do this. And I don't know what that was about. So
and I'm
curious to see.
Because those 2 characters specifically have had like polyamorous references in their backstories. So I don't know if they're putting those threads together at some point in the future or not. I don't know where they're going, but I don't know. I did notice it was just a surprisingly intimate scene from what I was expecting when the dude walked in the room.
Yeah, me too.
Who stole his binoculars 2 episodes ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thought it was fun. I thought it was a
I
good
was
one.
too.
I enjoyed it.
My wife didn't get to watch it, so I'm going to watch it again with her probably tonight or tomorrow. I'm actually looking forward to watching it again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Alan, where can people find more of you?
CosmicCreative.com. KOZMIC creative.com.
And how about you, Keith?
Facebook, primarily the ESO Network Facebook groups. That's where you can find me.
How about us, Veronica?
Feltnerdy.com.
And?
Monkeying Around, a podcast about the monkeys.
And do you have a closing for us this week?
Yes. I had one, but I couldn't remember it, and I couldn't find it online. Okay, this one. I couldn't keep it in my head long enough to write it down. The Federation stops being the Federation if it insists Klingons stop being Klingons.
Okay.
There you go.
I love it. There's a whole thing we didn't get to talk about. Thank you for saying that. That was important.
That was a great line.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see everybody next Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Take care.